Oops, I need to have a break. I was unconsciously moving and accidentally the glass window hit my head. And now you can see that the red fluid is oozing out, right? And do you know that? What is this red color? We have already discussed, but let me clean it first. So you know that we have already discussed that this red fluid which is coming out from my head, as you can see that is blood, right? But now as I have cleaned it and I think I'm okay now, so we can start. Now you can see that the red fluid which was oozing out was the blood, right? But now when I cleaned it, you can see the cut, right? But the red fluid is not oozing out anymore. The reason being the blood has stopped flowing out now. Not exactly as blood clotting, because at this moment the blood has just stopped coming out. But with some span of time, the cut will cease and it is called as blood clotting, right? So this is the next topic which we are going to take up now. So what is blood clotting? So as you saw that there was a red liquid which was oozing out, right? And then now span of time that red blood is not oozing out and it has turned somehow into a jelly-like state. That is called as blood clotting. And you know that blood clotting is very important factor. If the blood will continue to flow out, you know that there will be an excess loss of blood which can lead to hemorrhage. That is the excess loss of blood, right? So the blood clotting is a essential phenomena and very important also, right? So let's take up blood clotting now. Now you have a real life example. You won't forget it now. So let's see. So we have blood clotting. As the name suggests, the transformation of liquid state of blood into a jelly-like state, right? And how this transformation is taking place? This transformation is taking place when the liquid state of blood get exposed to air, it turns into a jelly-like state, and that is called as blood clotting. So if somebody asks you about blood clotting, how are you going to define that? So we are going to define in a manner that blood clotting is a phenomena when liquid state of blood, when exposed to air, turns into a jelly-like state. That is called as blood clotting. And we have already discussed, while discussing the composition of blood, I told you that blood platelets, they help in blood clotting, right? They secrete certain proteins which are present within the plasma, and the names of those proteins are, that is prothrombin and fibrinogen. So these two proteins are synthesized by the platelets and they are put into the plasma, right? So plasma contain these two proteins, one is prothrombin and fibrinogen. And now let us see that how these two proteins help in stopping the blood flow, or you can say how they help in blood clotting. So let's look at its mechanism. So let's write it down, and we are going to write it in a flow chart manner, and in an exam also you have to attempt in a similar way. So if some injury occurs, right, then what happens? At the site of injury, the platelets move. So we'll write injury plus platelets, right? They lead to the formation of an enzyme, inactive enzyme, and it's called as thromboplastin. It's called as thromboplastin. Now let's see that what this thromboplastin will do. This thromboplastin will convert the prothrombin protein into thrombin, and thrombin is an active enzyme. And who is gonna facilitate it? That is facilitated by the calcium ions which are released at the site of injury. Got it? Now this thrombin, which helps in converting the another protein, that is fibrinogen, into a fibrous substance, that is called as fibrin. That is called as fibrin. As the name suggests, fibrin refers to fibers, the tiny thread-like fibers, right? Now this fibrin will get entangled inside the RBC. That is, RBC will be now full of fibers, right? So obviously RBC, that is the liquid blood, will now have fibers, and it will now turn into a blood clot, that is into a jelly-like state. That is, the liquid state is now converted into jelly-like state, right? But initially this clot is soft, But with passage of time, due to formation of three-dimensional structures of fibers, or the strong bonding between the fibers and the RBCs, or the better placement of fibers in the RBCs, so it leads to the formation of hard clot. So that means in a short span, the soft clot transforms into a hard clot, right? And when this hard clot is formed, a yellow color fluid is released, and that yellow color fluid is called as serum, right? It is actually a plasma only, but it lacks the fibrinogen protein. It lacks the fibrinogen protein because whole of the fibrinogen protein is converted into the fibrin now, which are entangled inside the RBCs. So what is released? The serum is released. That is the same as, or you can say that is the plasma only, but it lacks the fibrinogen protein. Before we discuss about the blood groups, I want you to know about two definitions, right? One we have is the antigen, and the other we have is the antibody, right? So what do we mean by antigen? Antigens are infection causing agent that enters our body, that enter inside our body and cause harm to us, right? So antigens are infection causing agent, right? And if I talk about antibody, so what do we mean by antibody? Antibody is a protein which is synthesized in response to antigen. That means it is going to fight with antigen and it will make the antigen harmless. So we have antigen and the other we have antibody. But when we'll study about the blood groups, we will see that naturally also the blood groups contain certain antigens and certain antibodies. But those antigens and antibodies are not causing harm to the specified blood groups, right? Like we'll discuss further that in case of blood group A, we have the A antigen and the B antibody. So that blood group A is not affected by the antigen A, right? That means it has the compatibility with the antigen which is present inside it, right? Now, if I encounter certain bacteria, viruses or any microorganism which can cause harm to our body, that is called as antigen. And what my body respond to it, right? That is going to be a protein which is going to fight with that infection causing agent, and it is called as antibody. So we have antigen and the other, in response to antigen we have the antibody. So I think you got it. So let's start with another topic, that is blood groups. So let's learn about blood groups. Like we have 4 blood groups. Depending upon that, we have blood group A, we have blood group B, we have blood group AB, and we have blood group O. So in A blood group, we have antigen A. In B blood group, we have antigen B. In AB blood group, we have antigens A and B. But in case of O blood group, there are no antigens, right? So if we talk about the antibody which are naturally present inside these blood groups, so in A blood group, we have the antibody B, right? In B blood group, we have the antibody A, and in AB blood group there is no such antibody found. But if we talk about O blood group, it has all antibodies, right? So I think you got it. Now you know about AB and O blood groups, and you also know about the antigens and the antibodies which occur naturally in these blood groups. Now we are going to focus on the blood transfusion, or you can say the blood compatibility. So let's start with another part now, right? So let's see that what we are going to learn in this part. Oh, I can hear a loud sound. Can you hear that? Let's see that what is happening. So the accident took place and you can see that man is severely injured and people are just rushing him to a hospital. Right, let's peep out. Let's peep inside the hospital that what is happening, and is that man okay, or there is some 50% chance. Let's see. So you can see that the man is lying on the stretcher, right? And we can see that the another man is also lying beside him, right? But that man seems to be quite healthy, right? He is not looking like a patient. He is a patient, right? And that person is quite healthy. But we can see that there are certain pipes are attached to that healthy person and to this patient. And we can see that the blood is moving from his body to his body, right? So I think there is excess loss of blood that has occurred due to accident, right? There might be some major injury, right? So there may be an excess loss of blood, and that is the reason the doctors are actually transferring blood from that healthy person to this patient, right? So this is the topic which we are going to take up, that is blood transfusion, right? As you saw that he was a patient, right? And the other one who's lying on the stretcher is the healthy one, right? Beside him, we can see another patient also. But that patient is not used as a donor in this case, right? We have used this healthy person as a donor and we are transferring his blood to a patient, right? That means the blood is not transferred from one patient to another patient. It is being transferred from a healthy person to a patient. This is what is blood transfusion. Let's write its definition now. So, blood transfusion means the transfer of blood from the donor to the recipient. Who is going to be donor? The donor is obviously going to be a healthy person, right? And who is going to be a recipient? Obviously, a patient who is short of blood or due to any injury, he is suffering some disorder and the blood transfusion is required by him, right? This is how you're going to define blood transfusion, right? Now, when we transfuse the blood, or you can say when we transfer the blood, then what factors we have to consider? Can we use any person as a donor, or we need to carry out certain tests? Obviously, we need to carry out certain compatibility tests. We have to consider certain factors before doing the blood transfusion. So let's focus on those factors. The first thing is, during the transfer of blood, what we need to check is the same blood group. We need to check the same blood group, right? The second thing we need to check is the blood which is transferred from the healthy person to the recipient, or a donor to be recipient, should be healthy. What do I mean by healthy? Healthy means it should be disease free. It should be disease free, right? So if there is the same blood group, if the blood is disease free, still it's a matter of life. What we are going to do is we are going to perform a compatibility test. Not we, the doctors. They are going to perform the compatibility test, right? So the doctors are going to perform the compatibility test. Now let's see that how we perform the compatibility test. How the doctors perform the compatibility test. So what we do is, what the doctors do, they take a drop of donor's blood, right, on a slide. As you can see that this is a slide and they take a drop of donor's blood. And what they do, they take a drop of recipient blood also, right? So there is a slide with the one drop of donor's blood, and to the donor's blood drop, they add a blood drop of recipient also, right? And they leave it aside for few minutes. Then after, they visualize it under microscope, right? And when we visualize under microscope, we can have two situations. One is this, in which you can see that the cells are uniformly distributed. So when the cells are uniformly distributed, that means the two blood groups are compatible. Though we know they have the same blood group, the blood is disease free, but still we can see that the blood samples are quite compatible. But if you get to see like this, that is, the certain clusters of cells are seen, which is called as agglutination, right? If clusters of RBC, which is called as agglutination, this is seen, that means the blood is not compatible. It is incompatible. So this type of blood is not transferred from a healthy person to a patient. It is not transferred because it will not save his life, or you can say it is going to harm the patient, right? So during blood transfusion, we need to check these things, and also the doctors have to perform this compatibility test because this is a matter of life, right? So this is what is blood transfusion and the compatibility test. Now let's see that which blood group can be a donor to which blood group, right? So we have this blood compatibility chart, right? As I told you that we have the antigens and we have the antibodies, right? We know that what we have discussed is the types of blood groups, and now we are going to start with the compatibility, that which blood group can act as a donor to which blood group, or you can say which blood group can receive a blood from which specified blood group, right? So we can see that A can donate blood to, if we talk about blood group A, it can donate blood to A and also to AB, right? And if we talk about B, right, it can donate blood to B and also AB, right? AB has both the antigens, A and B. That is the reason it can receive blood from any blood group. So we can say that it is universal recipient. It is universal recipient because it has both the antigens. So it can take blood from any blood group, right? So if we talk about AB, so AB can receive blood from all. Now if you look at O, right, so O has no antigens, but it possesses all antibodies, right, and it can donate blood to rest of the blood groups, and that is the reason it is called as universal donor, because it possesses all the antibodies and no antigens. So I think you got it. So out of this, the two questions are very important, that which blood group is called as universal recipient and why, and which blood group is called as universal donor and why, and you need to learn them accordingly. So I think you got it. You know about the blood groups now, you know the blood groups antigens and the antibodies, and also you know that which blood group is compatible for which blood group, right? So this is all about the blood groups and the compatibility, right? So now we are going to start with another topic that is called as Rhesus factor, right? So what do we mean by Rhesus factor? Rhesus factor is actually a antigen. Rhesus factor is actually a antigen which is denoted by Rh. The blood which has the Rhesus factor naturally in it, it is called as positive, Rh positive, and the one which doesn't possess this antigen, they are regarded as Rh negative, and accordingly our blood groups are positive or negative. Like I am B positive, you must be A positive, or somebody is AB positive or O positive. That all depends upon the Rhesus factor, whether it is present or it is lacking in the body, right? So Rhesus factor is an antigen. So I think you got it. So with this we complete about the blood, the composition of the blood, the, you can say, blood clotting, about the blood transfusions, about the blood groups and the compatibility, and also about the Rhesus factor. So now we are in a position to learn about the major organ present in a body, that is called as heart. So let's start with this interesting topic now, that is heart.